Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I'm Toby and we have made our way, the players have, we kind of just watching, but the players have made their way to the final week of PEL. It's been a long haul and well, of course they're not done just yet, still this weekend to go, but we have, we're nearing the end. We're getting to the point in which we can start and put the bits and pieces together to see who's gonna make it to the global championship, and also of course who's gonna win the phase. It's getting pretty close up there in the top, but of course 5 games to analyze today. 6 games is on the final day, and as usual it's 2 games of Miramar followed by a game of Sanhok followed by 2 games on Erangel. So same as usual as far as the system. Again, I recommend if you're watching on YouTube that you go watch some of the other videos so you have something to compare with, or if you're very new to PUBG esports in general or competitive PUBG, go watch some of the first games of the phase. I like to step up the not difficulty but kind of the difficulty along the phase. So in the first game of a new phase, I know a lot of new people will be coming to watch, and therefore I'll go more in depth with why do these guys loot here and why do they do that and something like that. Whereas once you get more into the phase and most of the viewers get more accustomed with the different teams, then I'll go more in depth with more specifics, like why do they rotate over here when they normally go that way, or why would they do these and those things. So it's a little more in depth the longer we get through. So if you're new to it, go back and watch some of the old videos. Please do also watch this one. But yeah, just a hint if you get lost along the way. And also, if you're on Twitch, as I said before, always welcome to ask any questions that you may have. But let's go straight into the first game of the first day of week number 6. Playing pretty decent. Anyone who can't make their cuts? Not really. I mean, the 2 teams that have a bit of a stretch here are Navi and 7, and they both have alternative jump spots down on the southwestern side of Los Leones, so that's not really too bad. Maybe we wouldn't see Crow Crowd go towards El Pozo. We actually don't see Crow Crowd go El Pozo, so they'll change their spot. They'll go up north instead. Normally they would be headed over in this direction, and of course Desperados as well, not really opting to take that flight path. I mean, they probably could have, to be honest. They probably could have flown Impala with this plane, but jumping early down to Desperado or down to Chumacera, they'll be out earlier, which means they'll get looted earlier, and well, they'll just be ready to go earlier rather than having to commit out here. And then if it's a Western Circle, which we've had a lot of lately, then they would have to, they'll be late and have to go late as well. So might as well just jump into Chumacera now that they've kind of claimed it already. Let's see. The teams are landed, the teams are driving around, and the circle pops, and what a surprise. We are going into the exact same spot we've been in 9 billion quadrillion times before. I don't think quadrillion is actually a number, but now it is. So we've been up here plenty of times before. The only difference this time around is, of course, El Pozo is open. Crow Crowd would be here normally, but they aren't. As we said before, no team up on the northern side as far as N47, and not N47, Navi, and nobody from 7 up here either. So the majority of, I guess you can say, rotation paths, if you look at down here, will be they'll be piling up from the south side of the circle, and of course, I mean, phase, they're gonna play what they do normally. There's Knights, they'll go probably. I mean, this would be the obvious situation, right? Knights sit here, Face maybe do a little bit of a split with the hill and whatnot, but they'll focus here, Knights will focus here, and everyone else coming in from down here can kind of take everything that's not those two spots. So let's see. First, immediately, circle pops. This is my compound. I would like to see a game where FaZe don't get this compound in a circle like this. I don't know how that will work, considering that they loot literally right there, but that'd be fun. And also, if you look at rotation paths coming in, I think for the most part, I mean, you know that Game of Legion ain't gonna stick around here. They'll try and move further up. And same thing on the southern side. So I don't think teams are too scared of rotating this way. Or else, of course, you can always go like this. And if you're up on the northern side and you don't want to go through San Martin, either you can go, well, up over the dirt road and in, because again, nobody would probably be sitting over here. Or you can try and make your way through here, or all the way behind Los Leones and up from here. But that's just going to be a very, very late rotation to a circle that I think you can play differently. So let's see. Let's see. Desperados, they're already cutting across. Page is driving over as well, and just exactly makes it past the guys. They now know for a fact that 1 in 47 player went past them. NIP, well, smart reaction play by them. You can see how fast they make their rotation. They see the circle, go boink, and immediately they say, Crow Crowd didn't jump El Pozo. This was a bad plan for them. That means this is ours, and they immediately practically send it over to get a good spot over here. I don't think NIP would have been as fast to go over here if it wasn't because they knew that El Pozo was free. I don't think they would have committed so hard to playing the eastern side. They probably have rotated over the top, like we've seen before. Also, they've had issues with I think it was TSM over on this side of the circle before, but where they've run into them. So I think this time around they're like, you know what? Nope, full speed forward. Let's just avoid all these confrontations and get this spot. Oh yeah, I know. We've covered that much, so we've covered that. We know that. But thank you so much for saying it anyway. By the way, guys, Tixu, you will you'll find him right there. I had to dig you out between all the reciprocity players that you're rotating next to, but they're rotating around the top side, of course. I mean, did they lose 2 on that rotation? Oh no, they didn't. They rotated around Oasis. I like that. It's a small thing. It's a really small thing. But Tixu, obviously, with the bike, I don't know if reciprocity starts shooting at him, but calls, guys, there are people close to us. Let's not have everyone cluster up, because if Nuki and the last teammates stop, like Misa, Nuki and Misa, if they stop, like if they try to go behind, there's no reason for reciprocity not to stop and start shooting at them. So might as well just go around. I mean, there's no reason to try and take a fight this far on the edge of the circle. So they will wrap around. It's not like Crow Crowd have a big need of going center circle 1 anyway. So N47, they'll take a northern spot. NIP, they're staying up on the northern side. Still, again, we've seen a lot of circles go up into this area before, and we've seen a lot of circles go down here. That's like the two circles that people are expecting right now. Is either it's going to end somewhere between here, or it's going to go somewhere over here. Or maybe we get this ending. I think these are the 3 endings that we've seen the most on Miramar. And it has pretty much always sprung out with this first circle. So I think these 3 are the options that teams are kind of expecting, which is why you see Rayshard staking up here, Reciprocity staying on the northern side. They're going, you know, we're not in a hurry to go center, because even if it sticks center, we can always crash El Pozo, can always wrap around the other way. I mean, we'll figure it out. No reason to stress. I think that's the case, and I think N47 sitting in the middle here going, oh, please, God, dear God, don't have 7 up here crash in towards us. But 7, obviously, this time around coming in from the south. Normally they would loot here, wrap over towards where NIP is. This time around, coming in from the south and taking up the hilltop in Montenuevo. Now circle 2, about to poppity pop. Where are we headed? We are going hard south. Hard shift south. And if you're Reciprocity right now, if you're Crow Crowd potentially right now, if you're NIP or if you're Ratio Edge, you have a few things to consider. Either A, try and wrap west side, I guess you can say, west side on Miramar, and try and get down to the circle that way. But where do you really play then? Because if you come down this road or even further up, you can play the compounds. You can play the compounds out here. But is that what you want to play from, or would you rather try and take something here? That would be the alternative. So for Ratio Edge, you can see them already in their cars. Probably don't want to drive through San Martin, but either underneath and over this way, or underneath and down that way to get something over on this side. Because I think anything going in this direction would be very dangerous. NIP can kind of do it because they have Gaxi there to control. I mean, they have him for information. They've probably been scouting forward as well. But for any team that is further north than NIP at this point, going straight north to south would be a pretty, I would call it at least a pretty dangerous rotation. And obviously NIP, they are indeed rotating over the top. A lot of teams went underneath. Liquid trying to wrap all the way around. They were sitting on the hilltop, still in the circle. You can see they're still in the circle, but they decide to say, nah, we don't want Monte. That's not exactly what we like to play from, so they'll wrap all the way around the backside and try and see if they can find a spot on the other side of this mountaintop. Ratio Edge wrapping around the side as well. One of the Crow Crowd players gets kind of caught out in between everyone. That's Desperados on top of Tixu, and he goes down, unfortunately, caught in the rotation. And Reciprocity, of course, Scum likes to do these things. They're gonna gonna wrap all the way around the south. First we get west side, now we get wrap as well. This is the new hip hop stream, by the way. New circle pups, and if you're sitting north right now, I mean, if you're any of these 4 teams, we're talking NIP, N47, Base, and Knights. If you're any of these 4, the reason they stay up here, and I think there's a pretty good reason to it. We got 4 teams sitting up here. 4. The reason they decide to stay north rather than try and take center is because whenever these circles go back north, which they have done a lot of times, this could easily just boink have gone up here, they will have arguably the 4 best positions in that circle. So why go down into Monte, first of all, that's scary, with a chance of the circle shifting back up, and then maybe you don't get that spot when you want to go back and take it, right? So might as well just stay up here, and even if it does go south, like, you can only hard shift so much. I mean, you wouldn't see the northern side of the circle be here, so you can only hard shift so much down south, which means that most likely, at least, even if it does hard shift, you'll still have either all of Monte or parts of Monte Nuevo inside the next circle, which is, of course, not optimal. But it's something you can play from. It's something you can go to. And the circle does go south. Doesn't hard shift. There's still a bit of room down there. But it does go south. And in 47, as we said, stay. If it comes to you, it's amazing. If it doesn't, you can still play Montenegro. They decide to go down fast. FaZe coming in right behind them. NIP, they don't want to go into the city. They try to wrap around. Only 3 guys alive. Reciprocity, they're making their way in from the south. G2 and TSM, they kind of have these neighboring compounds where it's one of those situations where you can shoot at each other and you can get knocks all over the place, but you can't really push. I mean, it's just the whole run-up is so open that trying to push up from this compound with these guys trying to look at you, that's simply just... I don't think it'd be worth it for anyone. Ratio Edge wrapping far around on the southern side. Ends in a wide 2-2 split. A little greedy 2-2 split, I'd say, at this point, considering how many teams they should expect to try and kind of wrap around underneath. Same thing with Navi. Dangerous 2-way split. We'll see if it works out. Misa and Nogi trying to wrap around the top side. They will be able to make their way in towards the circle. But then we get this shift. And we've talked about this area of the map before. I think there was a game where... was it Game Allegiance sitting here, a Knight sitting up here, something like this. But we pretty much have a death square. And I want to draw it up as something like this. We could actually make it even bigger. Anything in here, I should probably have drawn it up the other way, so there was a red cross. But anything in here is, and when I say unplayable, I've tried to explain this before. It's not that I mean that you physically cannot go there, because yes, you can go there. It's a part of the map. But it is not a square either. That is true. It's more like a weird shirt. But nonetheless, you have 4 shacks, or 3 shacks make that, and that's pretty much all the cover you're gonna get. It's an open face of a hill that goes down towards the road. So the curvature is that it goes down this direction, which means that if you're, if there's still people in one of these 3 compounds, which in this case there is, they will have perfect vision on you up here. And most likely, if you are up here, you're not going to be the only team here. So if you're trying to shoot at TSM and you have these ridge lines going up here and you want to hide, like you peek over the top to shoot over at TSM, then you go back down the ridge to stop and heal while you're sitting there and thinking you're safe, these guys will just be shooting at you. So you're never safe if you go here, which is why I'm saying it's not an area that you cannot access, but it's an area where if you go there, you have very, very little control of what's going to happen next, because you can't really take charge in doing anything. Your vehicles are going to get destroyed. You'll most likely get shot at by multiple teams, and there's not really anywhere to hide other than a few shacks. Exactly. So you're exactly as Sixo says, if you go to anywhere, again, if I drew it up again, anywhere in that area I just drew up, you're playing based on things that don't have anything to do with you. And that's what people talk about when they talk competitive PUBG. We got to minimize the RNG. We got to have as much control as possible. We have to have as much control as we can. So it's not, oh, the circle went here, now we can't do anything. Like, you always have to have a plan. But if you play here, literally, it's you saying, well, the only way we can stay alive here is if this team doesn't push us, if they don't do that, if they don't do that, if next 4 circles come to us, and if all our opponents miss all their shots. You don't want to rely on that in order to succeed. You succeed, like, your goal should be, if the circle goes here, boom, we're going to do this. If the circle goes here, boom, we're going to do that. If the circle goes there, it might be difficult, but we can do this and that. Here, it's just you giving up everything and saying, you know what, you guys are in charge now, we'll just chill here and see what happens. And you don't want to play like that, obviously. So that's why a big portion of this circle, there's no one there. Simply because these 3 compounds are still inside the circle. You can see huge area of the map that is simply not being used. Look at how many people, how many players are alive. We have 52 people still up. And there's such a big portion of the circle that's just not being used for anything. Knights managed to crash down. I think that's Crow Crowd eliminated up on the northern side. New circle pups. Reaching the same area once more. Now, of course, it changes a little bit because now only one of the 3 compounds are in. Only this little part of this little building is actually inside. And once all these 3 compounds are out, no one can play the northern side either, because then you'll be exposed to the hilltop, and then it kind of changes. But because these 3 or 2 of the 3 compounds, pretty much 3 compounds, are shifted out now, you can slowly start to maneuver in this direction. It's still not easy because it is very open, but now it's at least somewhat playable. And we can see all these people that are sitting up here. They've been waiting. They've been saying, oh my lord, we cannot go in here. We have to just sit on top of each other up on the northern side. And then we have on the southern side with this little, there's like a, what do you call it? A crater valley type thing down here where Ensa in the middle of it. That's all the people down there just sitting and kind of doing their thing. So we have a huge gap in the middle that nobody really dares rotate into. Other than Knights. And they go to a shack. And then they don't do anything for the next 7 minutes. If not even more. Just look at Snark and Reels. Let me know when you see them run away from this shack. Keep an eye on these guys. Everyone on the southern side forced to take these fights. They all know Reciprocity is caught in a bit of a strange situation because they want to make sure that Ents don't make it out of the compound, which of course makes sense. But at the same time, they're trying to contain the guys inside this building, which means that they're playing a hilltop. And if you go on this side, as we said before, kind of, if you go on this side, you're exposed to these guys. But if you go on this side, you're exposed to these guys. So what do? If you're playing this top, you kind of want to force the fight in one direction. But right now they're looking at 2 spots, of course, waiting for that new circle to pop. Circle goes east. That means good. We now know these guys have to leave. If we can just force G2 back, if we can force them back towards the building, which they do, then they can start focusing on what Ents is doing. Now they can all wrap underneath. They know that this area is clear. And because the compound is now clear, they will have all of this to play from. They can now start running down into the valley if that's what they please, once they've dealt with the guys over here. That's exactly what they do. They fully commit over towards Ents, deals with them, because once they have, or if they get them down, they will have at least, like what we've just drawn up with the white line here, full rotation control on that side. Knights still in the shack, can't do anything from there. Hamster tries to run up on his own. He is gonna go down, and now G2 saying, you know what, we cannot just sit here anymore. We cannot just let our opponents dictate what happens to us. If they clear, that's another threat, I guess you can say, to G2, right? So if Reciprocity manages to kill everything here, if they know for a fact that there's no opponents within this area of the circle, that's when they can become really dangerous, because all of a sudden they can start they can start kind of sending their troops around. The Skoom can start saying, guys, you go hold this, you go hold that, and you don't need 4 people to hold 4 people in a compound. Sometimes you can do it with 2, as long as you don't get knocked. That's the most important thing. If you just continuously look down towards the building, because what do they have here? It's an open roof on the building, and I'm sitting on thinking, you have door on that side, door on that side, open on that side, and a door, right? If you're downstairs, and you have the balcony. Oh wait, the balcony is up here, and here you go upstairs, which means that they essentially, if these two exits get shifted out of the circle, then they technically only have one exit, and that's on this side of the building. So they could just have one guy sitting and looking towards that exit and make sure nobody leaves, which is why they send Bragg Squad to make sure that they don't get pinned inside the compound. They need to make sure that nothing happens. And now, once DA and Reciprocity starts fighting, that's G2's cue to send it forward. They don't want to get caught in here. The circle has just gone away from them. They now need to go aggressive. And you can see they do. Bragg Squad gets the knock onto 1, and immediately Reciprocity gets dealt with. Also keep in mind, we'll go back in a second and take a look at DA, exactly how they played this game, because they played the game very different to what they normally would, and it worked out really well for them. I think they get 16 kills this game or something like that. At this point, they have 15 kills. Mathralius by himself, and Snark and Reels, they still have not left. So Tix's statement earlier was correct. Can't move from there once you go there. Then I try to hold off people from inside. G2 and TSM 4v3 with some sneaky snokes on the west side. Thralius does go down, but still a 15 kill game for DA. That is by far their best performance this phase. 2 go down from G2, 1-for-1 trade. Brax go by himself, not gonna happen, and TSM wins the game. So the two teams that were over here won it, but it wasn't just because TSM and G2 got circles all game. They played it really well, both of them. G2 pushed out when they had to. They tried to push up earlier, but you had, I believe it was Shiv and Monkey holding them off. And then later, once the fight escalated with DA, that's when they knew to push, because if they did manage to get them, they would have been contained from up here by Reciprocity. So good game by G2. TSM managed to get the win. And let's just go back a little second and see how DA played this game, because they actually played it very interesting. If we go back to the first couple of circles, so they come here early. They sit here from the very start, which of course is not really the biggest deal, but they very quickly realized, and I think that's the key component to their victory. They didn't win the game, but I think they tied for most points or something like that. But in any case, they know that this area is not going to be played. Everyone knows that the area we drew up before is not going to be played. So look at what they have a gateway to. No one's going to cross through here. They know that. We can do it like this. No one's going to cross through here. They know that, which means that with the way they've positioned themselves up here on the hilltop, they are like a full breed. Like they're a 100%. What do you call it? Roadblock, because you're not going to take the road. Look at how many compounds are down here. 1, 2, 3. You got the church. You got everything down here. Nobody's going to go up here. No one's going to go up here, especially not once the compound is taken. So this becomes a no-go. The road becomes a no-go. It probably won't be over on the other side either. This is your entry point to the circle. Or over here. Or you could have wrapped around, right? And DA goes, you know what, guys? If we just sit all 4 players right in the, like literally in the front of the door, we can rack up so many kills. And that's exactly what they do. They set themselves up, obviously not completely inside the circle, but they stay within this area for a long time with the hilltop control. And they don't need to engage people. That's the good thing. Like, that's the perfect situation for them. They have the high ground and they don't need to fight anyone, because everyone's fighting each other. They know that this area is not going to be contested by anyone. So they have no threat from north. There's nobody that will push them from the northern side. At least not yet. And they can just sit and let everyone else fight. And third party, third party, third party, third party, third party, third party, third party. Look at this. They never, just look at the A. They never fight teams close. Third party. Third party, because Reciprocity had the initial engagement. And then they come in, and at this point, they already have what? DA. At this point, they already have 11 kills. It's a perfect setup for them. And I don't feel like I see DA position themselves well enough to get points. They position themselves, not like we see with the Knights in this game, but they do more of that, where they don't really have a chance to control things themselves. But two games in this day alone, DA did very smart things. This was one of them, and it gave them, as you said, the most points of game 1. So very good first game for DA. We'll jump into the second. And again, if you guys have questions along the way, do feel free to ask. Boink. Game number 2. All right, scrolly. Okay, so game number 2, very similar plane. And it's a little more, what hair do I use? Wait, do you guys wash your hair? I actually don't know. The one that my fiance buys. I'm the kind of guy. Have you ever seen those videos where the girl has like 19 different shampoos, and then the guy comes home with, "Look, girl, I got conditioner and shampoo and toilet cleaning and I'm just saying weird things now, but we got all this in one product. Yippee!" That's me. that's me. In any case, let's keep the focus on what we're doing here. It's a very similar plane, considering that it's a southwest to northeast, but it does have a little more of a, like, where the last one was maybe more like this, then this one is more like that, which means that Poso should be available to Crow Crowd. I guess Navi and Seven can kind of decide themselves. Do you want to go to the spots you've gone to before, or would you rather go down here? Because both of them are, oh, down here, whatever. Both of them are available, so you can. This is like one of those lucky planes where you can kind of decide what you want to do. Being further up this way, obviously both Ents and Desperados will have a hard time reaching where they want to go. So we'll see what they do. And DA obviously as well, going underneath, will have a chance to do that. But Seven, Navi, and Crow Crowd are all up here, which means there's a lot less. Like, we just removed 3 teams from the southern side of the map. Keep it in mind. We talked about something last game. I hope that you guys can remember. But we just removed 3 teams from this side of the map. Could become useful information. Because look at this circle now. If we had 3 more teams on the southern side having to rotate north, things would have looked very different. But now, because we have Seven, Navi, and Crow Crowd technically already inside the circle, the way that NIP went out early, I mean, now they're sitting literally in the center, so they probably wouldn't go that far this game. But the way that they could move earlier, like, they had so much freedom to maneuver in this area. Now that area is completely and utterly blocked off by opponents. So the pressure on the north, like where last game, not all pressure, but the majority of it came from that southern side. Now it's a lot more, I guess you can say, balanced, a lot more evenly spread out between the two, because we only really have 2.5 team on the southern side that are out, and then 1.5 team on the northern side that isn't in. So very, very similar plane, but with very different, what do you call it? With very different situations you have to kind of adapt to as a team. And that's a difficult thing, because you have a lot of things going on when you're playing, but you have to like react to very different things. In any case, now let's see how exactly this unfolds. So all these teams obviously wanting to go somewhat within this area. It is the center of the circle, and there's enough to take. And one thing that surprised me a little, actually, is the fact that TSM and Liquid run into each other here. I've seen James go up and take this before, and I've seen Gustav try to make it over, but like, damn it, he beat me to it, and then he had to run away again. But I've never ever seen Liquid and TSM fight for this hill. It makes perfect sense that you want to get this hill, but it's just very rare to see 2 teams. I mean, I guess it's more rare to see TSM do it than Liquid do it, because Liquid do pull up on compounds and stuff early on sometimes, but I don't think TSM was at all prepared for this fight when they initially got up the hill. And you can see they're still driving until they're practically on top of their opponent, so I don't think they're at all expecting Liquid to be up here. I think TSM has no clue that there's going to be 4 Liquid players on the hilltop once they get up there. And of course, that causes a cluster, but I believe, yeah, they get slaughtered. I think Liquid just, I mean, whether it was them doing it on purpose to rotate up and hold off a potential TSM rotation, which if it was, 10 out of 10, because they wiped them pretty much instantly. I don't know what was the key component to them moving up here. This is the question I would have asked if I was the interviewer. I don't think I'll ever be an interviewer. But why did you guys rotate up there that fast? Because look at how early they are. They loot. They just landed. Loot. And like they don't even scout. They just immediately, okay, Sam does stop. But immediately, full speed send it. It's as if they know another team will be coming up here soon. And they beat them by, what is the difference? Okay, so they jump out of their vehicles. James jumps out there. At 5:30, James jumps out into the game. And now they're fighting. They beat them by 10 seconds. 10 seconds. And TSM would have been the team that was sitting here while Liquid came driving in. And they would have been most likely. I mean, they might not have won the fight just because of that. But at least I think they would probably have gotten more kills on it. So very, very great understanding by Liquid to say, guys, if we're fast enough, we can beat TSM to that spot. And if we're really fast, we might even be able to wipe them because there's no way in hell they're expecting that. So great play by Liquid. It's just one of those small things that maybe if the camera wasn't there, because one of the things is, to me at least, when we watch competitive PUBG, the camera don't want to miss a lot of action. I think that's the general thought of Pro League observers right now, that they don't want to miss the action. So if there's guns shot, like if there's guns fired, then the camera will be there. But it also means that we rarely ever get to see the build-up to a situation. Unless if you're sitting with the map stream and the main stream and all that, you rarely ever get to see what leads into the fight. And obviously, if there's a team shooting and you're watching that, then the casters will be talking about that. Let's say Monkey is shooting over towards Braxco. This is purely an example. It's not even possible. He was shooting over towards Braxco, and that's where the camera is. And obviously, if I'm the caster, and that's what I'm seeing on my monitor, I'm going to go, oh, look, Monkey is shooting over towards Braxco. In the meantime, all this could be happening, and I wouldn't necessarily know it. And then we don't get to go into the fight before it's already started. Like, boom, now we would be over there. And then you get thrown into it. Oh my God, look at this. Liquid and TSM are fighting. And then you would cover that, and they win. But during the cast, it would be very difficult for us to, or for us, I say for any caster, to make sense of what happened, because once this fight's boom, like once this fight is ended, they immediately go over to something else. So very hard to cover, like very hard to spot. I didn't get to see the main broadcast yesterday. I was watching, I'm obviously casting the N47 cast, so I don't know if they covered it. But it's one of those situations where it's very difficult to get info on. Like, what I was trying to say with it, if you guys lost what I'm saying, I lost in what I'm saying, is that it's a fight that escalates, but as a viewer, you probably wouldn't know why the fight even happened to begin with. You would just see that it was a crazy fight. But there's so much more to it, because Liquid beats TSM on their rotation by 10 seconds, which is the reason that they get the kills. They don't lose a single player, they got one knocked. But it only works out for them because they beat them on TSM's rotation by 10 seconds. It's just one of those things that people and viewers don't put a lot of thought into. But I'm positive that Liquid has spent a lot of time like saying, if the circle goes there and we are fast enough, we can beat TSM. Like, I think their playbook is so thick that they can do these things. And I think it's very impressive. Like, it's very good to see and to follow. That was a little of a sidetrack. I'm sorry, but I hope it makes sense anyway. We get to talk about a lot of different things, and now he's sidetracked into casting and observing and fights. But overall, that's what I wanted to say with it. Liquid beat TSM on their rotation, and they made them, like, they punished them for it. So great play. Also means that you have to be more creative with your plays every now and again, I guess, because teams like Liquid will indeed punish you. N47, they're wrapping around the western side. Desperados is down here, and this is actually kind of funny. Look at this. So N47, they drive straight through Simsi and Terminal down here. And then they go up north. Keep an eye on N47, because this next rotation is... I said it during the cast yesterday. I said, okay, so they can do this, like looking at the next circle. They can do this rotation, but it's not going to be easy. So they're sitting in the Knights compound right now. Oops. They're sitting here, right? They send T-Bone up to scout forward. He gets taken down by Timmy. Not a whole lot more you can do. Unfortunate, you lose a scout on the rotation. That's the risk of scouting, I guess you can say. And then what happens here is this circle pops. And I was sitting and I was watching this and I was thinking, what the hell can N47 do in this circle? Like, honestly, they're sitting over here in the Knight's compound. They know for a fact that Fuzzface or someone from Face is in this compound because they've been shot at by them. They know that Desperados were south earlier. They've just lost the guys Crow Crowd. So this is a no-go. This is a no-go. And, well, this is a no-go, technically. What do? You rotate back through El Pozo over the top? Or, and that's when I thought of it, but I was like, nah, there's no way that I would call that play. Or do you then I was looking like, where can you bounce up? You don't want to go up there. That's going to be a no-go. You don't want to go through Picado. Don't want to go through the crater. I guess the only thing you can do is if you wrap all the way around, either under La Bandita or around La Bandita. And then you could go into Minas, but that would also be dangerous. So what you potentially have to do is do that. Look at the N47. Okay, so I didn't draw it exactly like they do. But I think you get my point. We'll fast forward it a little bit too. Scout. Rotate. They see DA, they try to rotate down, doesn't work. Now the circle goes up once more. All the way around. And they get Hacienda. That was a very impressive rotation. I was sitting and casting. I was just sitting clapping my hands like, guys, I mean, yes, of course, this shift is amazing. It could have shifted over here and then they would have been absolutely fucked. But just the idea of making that play is something that very few teams do. And yeah, very, very impressive overall. Now, let's... and the funny part of it was, as I said earlier, they ran past Desperados down here. And now they run past each other again. They literally, I mean, they swap spots. Desperado, go that way. N47, go that way. And Desperado, in my opinion, run into the issue that I would say was kind of inevitable because we know there's an El Pozo team. We know Navi's north. We know 7 is here. So the odds of having players in this area is pretty damn big at this point. And they simply rotate straight over and into Crow Crowd. And I think they, if not all die, then 3 of them get killed or something like that. While Navi, oh, N47, sorry, are making their rotation around the other side. So interesting 2 rotations that kind of went, I mean, crisscrossed, and then one team survived because of it, and another team rotates straight into death. New circle pups. To go back to talk on that one. N47, as you said, they're going to wrap around and get Hacienda. Desperados try to crash into the city, and that's, of course, not going to happen. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be 5 teams in or around the city of San Martin. Everybody's expecting it to go away from the hilltop down here. And that, of course, is exactly what happens. We shift over east, and look at this circle. We just excluded, not the entirety, but a rather big portion of San Martin. And we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 teams outside the circle. 7.5 teams not inside the circle. Make that 8.5 because Game of Legion are south. Obviously, G2, they're going to go nope, and they're going to play together. DA, only 2 guys alive. Probably going to be chilling inside of this shack for a little while longer. And what can you play? I mean, raise your edge. Either they can stay and try hold, or they can try and push forward. I think it's Enzo ends up going down and taking the Stalper. Stalls? What do you call it? A horse house. A house for horses. I don't remember the name. I think it's called a Stalper, right? No, I'm not sure. In any case, stables. That's what it is. Just Stalper. That's a fucking mountain on your ankle. Yeah. Stables. Ow. I'm losing track now. But yeah, San Martin is going to get excluded. And the issue with San Martin is that you can't really do a whole lot from there. I mean, once you're out on the edge, they cross over the road, practically impossible. There's going to be teams on both sides. The cross in the open, even more impossible. It's simply not going to happen. So, and because this entire hillside, I mean, this whole hillside is visible to everyone there. And this field is just... so, if we split up like this... we have 11 of, we can draw even more, just to guess, prove my point. In this whole area down south, in everything that is down here, we have 11 of 47 players. There are 36 players in the northern side, like in this part of the circle. We have 36 players, and we only have 11 down here, which is technically already too many. So obviously the balance between where teams are right now is very, very offset. And it goes to show, because all of a sudden this circle forces the northern side. I would have loved to see a hard shift south just because the chaos that would have commenced. But we're going into an area now where the teams that are there are already settled. Like, they have no reason to go anywhere. N47 in the compound. Crowd has Hacienda. Why would any of them go anywhere? Whereas to the teams that are on the western San Martin, they have to try and fit into an area where everything's already taken. And then you have two options. Either A, you crash, or you hope that someone else crashes. Because, I mean, it's going to get clustered no matter what, right? So Gamer Legion, they'll try and drive forward, go up to the dip up here. DA still chilling inside their shack. Reciprocity, they've set on the other side. G2, they're sitting all inside the compound. Razor Edge, alongside Liquid and NIP, are forced to take fight on this side. I mean, there's only room. Essentially, there's only room for one team up here. Practically, barely even room for one team up here. And it's going to be Razor Edge that survives. Vard tries to run through. Next circle goes over once more. And I think N47 sitting in this situation are very satisfied with the rotation they made earlier. Road is going to be forced to be crossed. I think when you're all the way down here, you're going to be up high enough that the people on the other side can spot you. It's only like the dip that you can stay in, which is not completely on the road side. You might have a little you can hide in here, but obviously you wouldn't bank 4 people into that small area. You have the entirety of Knights running in the open up towards the entirety of Gamer Legion, and then you have the 2 DA snakes still inside the shack. And again, north, no reason to move for any of these 4 teams at all. At least not yet. So it's going to be a matter of how do we fit Ents into the circle? How do we fit Navi into the circle? And how the hell does Razor Edge manage to cross the road? Bart finds one, gets to flush him as well. Razor Edge tries to cross. Ents try to push forward. Crowd and then 47 kind of working together and trying to make sure that these guys don't make their way in. Gamer Legion wants to cross, not going to happen. So it's practically all the teams, if we sit here, it's all the teams that aren't in that gets killed. Normally that's how it is. Knights try to go in, not going to happen. DA try to push forward, not going to happen. Gamer Legion try to run in, not going to happen. Ratio gets killed, and NIP got killed. So all the people that were in the circle prior to this happening are in the circle once more. New circle pops. And we're going south. And all of a sudden, obviously, N47 realized, well, we can't stay in this compound any longer. Crowd realizing the exact same thing. And what do? Because all they have is a pit down here. It's like a big bowl that you can run into. So either A, you go into the bowl. The thing is, when you're prone in a hole, the guys coming from above will have so much of an advantage because it's very limited where you can be, but they can kind of move around on the other side. It's like reverse whack-a-mole. You're sitting in the hole trying to whack people up there, but they can constantly jump into new spots, whereas you are going to be in the same place all the time. So it's very difficult to play down here. You're relying, again, it's one of those situations where you're really relying on other teams to kind of do the heavy lifting for you, and then and that you can kind of get the help from them. N47, they decide to go down into that pit we just talked about. It's not really a whole lot they can do other than that. I mean, they could try to... They don't have vehicles up here, I think, anymore, because they parked them up on the side of Hacienda. So they can't just go full speed forward into G2's compound. And also they know that the teams on the west side are kind of weakened, so they want to hold them off. Because once, like, if they can play this circle guaranteed, because all of a sudden, if you're in a hole, but one side is out, then it's kind of not really a hole anymore. Then it's more of a valley with you on one side, which means that if they knew, like if they had it confirmed, because they're sitting up here, right? So if they can be guaranteed that there's no one up here, all of a sudden, like we saw with Reciprocity in the previous game up against ENS, all of a sudden they can start using the back on the blue as a wall, and then they can be the ones peeking over the edge. The issue is they cannot peek over the edge this direction as long as someone can come peeking from up here and shoot them in the back. But once their backs are cleared, then they can start using that dip that was technically against them before to their advantage. So they're staying down here in 47, hoping that that's going to work out. Unfortunately, Crow Crowd is here to prove them wrong. They get down 1, they get down 2 in the meantime. Reciprocity and G2 start fighting. Misa and Tixu manages to stay put for a little while longer at least. And I think at this point you just want to have to change the third party. You saw them getting up, engaging, disengage immediately. They know that they're the outnumbered team in this situation. This final circle closes in. Of course, there's a billion smokes on the map that we can't really see. I mean, it's practically this entire area. It's just one big smoke at this point. So Crocro is like, if we can see you, you can see us. And try to push forward. Chris gets down 1. Oh, Chris gets taken down. I mean, Nels is the one to take him down. And then it's a 1v2 in favor of Crow Crowd, and Misa gets taken down too. But good second place nonetheless. They managed to get themselves a decent chunk of kills, I think. Yep, 9 kills and a second place. That's a 15-point game. Good for Crow Crowd. And G2 wins the game. Good game from them as well. So that's game number 2. A lot of interesting rotations in that one, I would say. Very interesting rotations that we don't see too often, to be honest. That's what I like the most about the rotations. We don't really see those type of moves too often. Now I want to see if I missed anything. You guys were talking a lot. I know everything. Everything is playable. Everything is playable. You just have to be good enough. I know Hayes. Nope, Trico, not gonna happen. Goodbye. You're banned forever. I think it's Jazzy if the Q is an A. Not Q&A, but if the Q is an A, it's Jazzy. And I'm going to put it this way to you. And remember, you're getting advice now about playing the game from a guy who is not a pro player, but an analyst. I have never heard of a person that went from toggle to hold and then went back to toggle again. On the flip side, if someone started playing hold, I've never heard them come up with a reason to go over to toggle. Critical motion doesn't count. He's Australian. Wait, Scoom plays with toggle? You're terrifying me right now. Scoom doesn't count either. He's from Gibraltar. I mean, who even comes from there? You guys gotta come up with some better examples to prove my point here. You guys really gotta come up with some better examples in order to prove my point. But what I'm trying to say is, well, first of all, of course, it's complete, like 100% preference thing. But I personally think that ADS has a lot more advantages than what Toggle does. I actually cannot come up with one advantage of using Toggle. Unless if you're a player that scopes all the time with your mini, and you're literally scoped in for like 15 minutes in a row, then I can understand that maybe you'll get, like, your wrist will start hurting a little, but then you just gotta practice with your wrist a little more, I guess. But honestly, and there are a lot of different exercises you can do from that, but I'm not gonna go into those. But honestly, I think that Toggle is, I know that hold is a lot better than Toggle. It does take time to get used to. I do not disagree. I started with Toggle too, and when I tried hold to begin with, I couldn't really figure it out. It seemed very strange to me, but it didn't take more than a day, I think. Like, play, I don't know, 10, 15 games, or play over a weekend or something like that, and I think you'd, yeah, I mean, you can do things faster with hold. I don't know how his aim is better with Toggle. I mean, your mouse still has to move over to the head of your opponent, so that shouldn't really change anything. You can peek faster. You can do different things faster. I don't know. It's a preference thing. I think hold is a lot better than Toggle, and yeah, that's kind of just my thought on it. I don't know. You guys can think whatever you want. But with that said, I hope that answered your question, by the way. Of course, there are a lot of pro players in the chat right now. I'm sure they'll gladly give you all the advice on different things that you would want to get. Let's go into Sanhok, just because Sanhok's amazing. Yay. And I actually want to focus mainly on one team this game. A team that we don't focus on very often. But they're here. And we've talked about before how DA sometimes do things that could have worked out extremely well, but then they didn't work out well. And how they play this match, yes, circles come towards him, but how they play this game is actually extremely well done. Because they do things on Sanhok that other teams don't normally do that much. Let's watch all these circles push forward. Liquid know that this compound is amazing and the game's always end there. Ratio Edge think it does too, which is why they start fighting. Bring! Ratio Edge goes down, and this is the second game in a row now where Liquid got 4 kills early game without losing a player. Of course, you don't want to, I mean, you can't do that every game, but they've just gotten 8 kills and 8 points within 5 minutes of 2 games in a row. That is very impressive. Because when you have these up-close cluster fights, you can sometimes have that guy surprising you around the corner or something like that, and well, this time around, they did indeed not. So a lot of players are coming from the south or the western side. As you can see, there's a lot of room out here. New circle moves, and well, obviously with this compound in play, DA say, you know what, let's go north, because these circles, they have a tendency to go up towards Paradise. That's a little bit of a magnet, and they don't want or need what's down here. What's interesting is Mert was sitting here, and I'm not, there's a reason that we're looking at DA. It's gonna make sense later. Mert was sitting here holding his compound. He then takes a bike, moves up to his, a lot of things going on. Moves up to his teammates on the northern side. In the meantime, N47 try to push around further, because this area here is extremely open. I mean, yes, you have the entire, like, the thingy down there, but the whole run from here to here is like, you just don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So so there's like a little bit of a bowl down here where you don't really want to find yourself at all, because you're very far out in the open. N47, they try to wrap around, they get stopped there. And then I want to see once the next circle pops, because it quiets down a little. We do see Navi and NIP fighting, but other than that, it kind of quiets down with also Face and the game leading out on the side. Look what happens now. N47, they were down here just a second ago. And they think, oh wait, I think this position now is a little better than what we had up here. Why don't we run back? In the meantime, because these guys, I think DA is one of the few teams that we see mid-game rotate with vehicles on Sanhok. There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't do that. But I guess one of the main reasons that you would do it is that you can get to certain compounds faster. And look at this. N47, they're sprinting right now. They just want to get back to the compound that they know they had before. In the meantime, Sixmo is sitting up here looking, and he goes, well, there's no one there now. It's a race, and who wins? The bike or the running man? They have to turn around and go back. Smart rotation by DA, realizing the center is open and pushing forward. So they force N47 back north. Now they have a position where, yes, they probably won't get a lot of kills, because, I mean, everyone is kind of outside their buffer zone. And they can now try and split out, take some more control. Again, keep that center open, keep control over it, and you'll be well off. New circle pops. They could potentially go back up to the hill they had before. They're looking around, two-way splitting. See, out on the eastern side, trying to hold off that too. All these teams are making their way on, and there's like a little bit of a valley point going through here with like the mountaintop here and mountaintop there. And N47 are sitting in the middle of it. So they know, DA, that with whatever comes here has most likely been fighting like along up here somehow. New circle pops. Immediately transfer your focus to what's happening out here. Because this is where most teams would go, well, we don't have a spot in the circle yet. Let's just fight all the teams that are here. Like, we're not in the circle anyway. Let's just fight. What they do instead is going, well, we still have our bikes, don't we? Yeah. If there's a team in here, then they're very split. Let's send it. They send it again. They force Gemty over on the other side. EB is still on theirs, but he, of course, don't want to be alone versus all of like a full 4-man team, not knowing, of course, what team it is, but don't want to be forced into that. Now, because people are so close to each other, now they can take the fight to opponents nearby. And once again, like we saw in the previous game that they did well on Miramar, start third partying, killing people, getting points without any consequences, which is oftentimes what third partying at a distance involves. And right now, what do they have for kills? Only 2 kills, not the biggest deal, but they're already inside top 6 guaranteed. Circle's gonna continue moving towards them. You can fast forward a bit. They get kills on their side, and now they have to cross, and that's the issue, right? I mean, this is where things kind of go sideways, because we can all be honest and say that DA is by no means superior to G2 or to Liquid when it comes to team fighting and up-close engagements. They try to leave. They're there holding, not gonna work. Probably should have thrown some more smokes or something if they wanted to wrap underneath, because they knew running straight into the other side was gonna be, if not suicidal, and something close to it. But they get a top 3 placement. 3rd place with 3 kills. That's an 8-point game. If you can get 8 points on a Sanhok game, that's probably considered a pretty decent game. How many kills do Liquid have at this point? They got their 4 kills early, and then they have then since then gotten 4 points. Like, they got the 4 kills against Raise Your Edge in the start of the game, and since then they've had 4 kills, and they end up being a 10-kill game for them. So G2 again winning a game followed by a 2nd place, very impressive, and DA having a 15-kill game on Miramar followed by a 3rd place with a couple of kills on Sanhok. So very good. I mean, honestly, very, very good games by them on this day, at least to begin with. Gonna head over to game number 4. Give me just 1 second. Game number 5. Yeah. Is there any news on who's casting promos, by the way? Promos for PEL? I would assume. I mean, I haven't been asked, so I would. I mean, also it's on the weekend of my little sister's wedding, so I wouldn't be able to go anyway. You had a hunt. That's a lot of money, but then again, of course, if you saw them in the center of the circle, then I was just gonna say, gambling on Sanhok games. That is a gutsy man. It's like you put extra. You should get like a guaranteed 10, whatever you call it, like 10% or something towards you. Like, everyone should get 10 times back on Sanhok, just because. I don't know, Clip. But anyway, let's go over to Erangel. Southern Plain. Anything changing? Most likely. Yes, Naya, not going to be taken by anyone because Raise Your Edge will jump down here. we would most likely see either this or this from N47. And then phase out towards that side. NIP will go out late. And then we have got Desperados, and we have the Ends team. They would probably try and see if they could do something else too. 7, they're gonna go out early. Again, we've talked about this last week, and I think 7 has reached a point at which they don't really have a preference. So they will loot Chopstick Split, and they will loot Nobo. Those are the 2 7 spots to loot. And normally, you would have one place that you prefer. So for example, if it's Military Power for phase, or they go like loot the western side of military, if the plane goes like this, then they would normally go like for this instead of here. Even though, like, even if this was their priority, okay, we can actually draw it up the other way. That's easier. If the plane goes like this, which it won't, but if it did, then they would not jump out here. I think they would probably go over here instead, just because that's where they normally go. But in 7's case, they just take whatever is easier. They'll go out here if it's closer, they'll go out there if it's closer. And since the plane goes over this way, they'll jump out Novo rather than try and make their way up towards Chopsticks. N47 out early. Ends out. Desperado's gonna go up towards shooting range, and it is a not guaranteed, but somewhat guaranteed military game. It could still shift up here somehow, but obviously it's probably not gonna happen. M47 out on the western side. We got everything else is lined up pretty much as usual. 7 bridge camp, maybe potential to take a fight TSM. They run through. So 2 guys holding, no kills at all. That's surprising. Normally kills would come in those cases, and I think TSM got got pretty fortunate. There won't be a plane pack like what? Like this? I don't think I've ever seen a plane go like that. I've seen a lot of planes go like this and like this. But I've never seen a plane path come in down here and go out up here. Have you guys seen that? Maybe I'm being deluded right now. I'm pretty sure I've never seen a plane path go that direction. South over Military Power. It's the same as having a Georgia Pole over Stalbert plane on the northern side. They don't exist. I don't know what the rules are for the planes, but I've never seen it before. In any case, let's keep on going. Circles military, Liquid as always. Whoops, gonna make their rotation across. I'm still waiting for that one day where a team will try and contest them. 7, they try and hold off TSM, but that's not gonna happen. So 2 teams have made it across. 1 here, and now 2 here with Game Legion crossing. We'll keep counting and see how many teams get over. FaZe opting to take boats, gonna sail around. I think they see Sadovnik, so they decide to beach up here rather than make their way through that way. N47, obviously they were in Prim, so they're just gonna make their way over there and decide to run up Desperados. They have a well, it's not exactly an easy access, because I mean, yes, it's an easy access to the bridge, but it's not exactly an easy crossing, because they not only expect but can probably also figure that there are quite a few teams on this side, whereas to normally, the thing is, there's so much more to play here than what there is here. I mean, yes, the buildings are there, but you just don't want to get stuck up there. Also, this position alone makes a lot of these spots very, very bad to play. Like, if you're sitting anything down here and there's a team sitting in the observatory, then you can't really do anything. So they kind of get screwed by that. G2. Well, I mean, normally you say 3rd time's the charm. This time around it's the 2nd time. So 7, they couldn't do a bridge camp with 2 people. Now they commit 4 people to it, and it worked. It's very rare that we see these bridge camps, but then again, I mean, 7 is one of those teams that they get a little more creative. I mean, they're a little more creative, I think, in their play calling. It's not necessarily creative in a better way, but they do some things that we don't see very often in PEL, which, whether it works or not, can be very it can surprise a lot of people, I think you can call it. What is my favorite region to analyze, Tom? I think these days it's actually China. I had watched games from China before, but I hadn't actually sat down and looked at what they do. And I think they do a lot of interesting things. You can go out, I mean, also if you guys watching on YouTube and you want to get some more eyes on China, we've done like a full series on the Chinese teams. So do feel free to go over and watch those videos, because they do some very interesting things. Now the circle goes military. Of course, it could have gone anywhere on the southern side, but it does go down towards the west. And what do we see? Base itself still into some sort, and then of course we have the southern compounds along the western compounds, and then we have this whole road of houses down here. Now let's see how teams play it, because we have some areas that you don't really want to be like forced into along the sides here. Like everything I'm drawing up right now, you can't really play early on in the game, and you can see it's. I mean, you can play this, but you probably won't see that happen. So a lot of the teams are trying to commit to these positions. The only issue is that the guys that are currently sitting in the middle, I mean, even if there's something available in the west, the guys that are sitting within this area right now, there's no reason for them to move when this circle pops. They're still somewhat center, and it's a pretty decent position for them to be in. I mean, they have compounds. Okay, let's just put it this way. There's absolutely no reason for them not to be there. Face is on the southern side. They're over here in the PUBG logo. And this just makes it so much harder for teams that are coming in from the east. So TSM, if anybody that is on, let's draw it up like this. If from here to here, we'll draw a straight line down along the road. If any team that is currently out on this side wants to go over here, then what can they get through? We'll draw it up. We have a point up here. Obviously, the compound is going to be a no-go. The hilltop, here you can stop. I mean, okay, we'll draw it a little further. More like this. The hilltop you can stop and scout on. Compound you can't drive through. Hilltop you can scout on. Compound you can't drive through. Field you can't really stop in, because this will be like there's a compound here, so you can't do that. Can't do that. Here you can stop and scout. Whoops. Can't drive through that compound. And then down in the bottom, you can rotate around as well. So if we look at this, there's a lot of area that you can't really cross through with vehicles. And the areas that you can, this is contested by Liquid. This is open for now. You can go up there. And down south, there's room as well. So there's a couple of options available, but they're very limited, right? So if you see all these teams that are trying to make their way through, TSM, they come down to take this. That makes that pathing impossible to use. And the only spot that's actually available, 7 goes through. And I think it's so amazing. I think it's so great to see how they have, like, they only have a stretch of probably 200 meters, maybe 300 meters alongside a 2-kilometer path. And they find it. And that is not, I don't know if it's luck or if it's very smart. The thing is, they never stop to scout. We've seen these rotations from them before. They sit over here on the western side. Here, they see the circle pop. And they go, team, according to my book, if we get this compound, we win the game. And there's no stopping and scouting at any point before they go from where they are there to them being inside the building. And not only do they get to the building... Oh, actually, I thought they got it. Don't they kill 60? Okay, they don't. No mind. Point disproven. They don't succeed in doing that at all. But it's just funny how... I mean, it doesn't really matter whether they win it or not. It's just the fact that they're so committed to doing some of these things. And there's no stopping them. I mean, there's no... I think even if 2 players had started shooting, they would still have crashed down the hill and went into the compound. Because once you hit this point and you're driving downhill, you can't really go anywhere else. Very funny situation. And having a team like that, that's my point I'm trying to make. Having a team like that does those things makes it so much harder for you to do anything else. It becomes so much more difficult for you to really go out and do something if now you cannot just take for granted that you know how teams play or what they do. If teams like 7 go do those things that are very different to what you'd normally see from certain other teams. So they end up losing 2 players. Ratio Edge now split a little further off, I believe. Yep, it's still 4 guys alive. Waiting for that new circle to pop. In 47, they have the hillside to themselves. And DA coming in very late in the crossing. Circle goes south, and again, still plenty of room. And nobody, actually, not a single team, is inside the military base itself. Now we'll see Circle closing on in slowly. And again, most teams are already settled. That's the funny thing about this shift. I mean, we pretty much just exclude the water. It's the exclusion of water where obviously there was nobody. We had nobody inside Ferry Pier, so that's not going to be an issue. We still have NIP crossing. We have Knights fighting, I believe, Liquid up here. Yeah, I think so. Other than that, and DA, everyone is inside the circle already. So it's not really, this shift is not going to cause the biggest, ooh, what's going to happen? What should we do? Because it was kind of expected to go back in that direction. At least to a certain extent. This next circle, though, becomes interesting. This next circle becomes really interesting. DA chilling in the plains. Uber, having heard that, is going to look down in that direction. This circle does exclude quite a bit. Reciprocity, they have to make a move. They can go up and scout, look forward, or they can just commit to the plains and look forward. But the thing is, what you have available in the plains, like in the circle, is a garage building, which is completely open to the south. You have these round silo thingies. I don't even know what you'd call them. And then you have the fence line. And then you have to go all the way down to the plains in order to actually sit anywhere. So, not exactly the easiest position for anyone to play from out here. Because you can pretty much only fit 1, maybe 2 teams into this area. Like if you cut it off here and you go there. You can pretty much only fit 1 or 2 teams into that area, and we already have 1 team there. On the northern side, NIP and Navi have to figure out who is going to be the winner of that hill, because they will either have to push into Ratio Edge up to N47 or die. There isn't really anything else they can play. Desperados, same situation for them. Either you follow through here or you push up towards the hill. And for Crow Crowd, M47 yesterday, they were landing some banger shots over towards Crow Crowd. I'm telling you, Vasco had like a mid-air headshot on Timmy from 300 meters away. Very impressive. So right now, the only thing M47 really needs to do is make sure Crow Crowd don't get into the circle. That's their main task. Their only task right now is to eliminate these guys so you can start focusing inward. In case the next circle goes somewhere else. T-Bone goes north. They've, of course, heard the fights going on up there. And this is where things go wrong. I don't know how they don't see it, but I think it's because of the trees that are down there, like kind of blocking the vision. But Nuki gets to cross the road. And that's where things start to fall apart for N47 in this case. Nobody knows that Nuki is here. T-Bone and Vasco are both holding north, while that full team is pushing in this direction. So he goes down, and all of a sudden they're completely, what do you say, not handicapped, but like they just lose so much control, having allowed for Crow Crowd to cross over the road, and that really messes it up for them, because they would have been that one team that can play from here. There's pretty much only room for one team, like inside the circle, there's only room for one team up here. Now FaZe, being 4 guys alive still, they've played the south, they're going to start maneuvering over soon. Compound. They are not going to go anywhere unless if they absolutely have to. Circle hard shifts to FaZe. As always, FaZe are very good at getting Circle 6 hard shifts. They managed to take out 1 team, take out 2 teams. Desperado's still on the top. They're going to go down soon as well. And the fights escalate on the northern side, obviously. There's only 1 building now of all these 3 teams. Only 1 building is inside. I think the edge of this wizard is actually inside too. But for houses, there's only 1. There's only 1 building in. So Ratio Edge, Gamer Legion, they get into a close quarter fight. TSM, all they have to worry about is make sure that no one's pushing through here. Don't allow for Mithralius and DA to push through. DA, top 6 once more. I'm just saying, they're making their way up and towards these top placements time and time again. over the last couple of days. They don't want to get relegated. TSM taking fire. Mithralius goes down, but again, 4th place for DA. How many kills did they get that game? I know a lot of people are making fun of them. So they only get 1 kill, but still 5-point game in a situation where they didn't really have a whole lot to play from. FaZe, they have the entire ridge line. Can't really lose the game at this point. 8's here really love the position that he's in. You see there's like a flat terrain here where they can't really play from. They have a ridge line up here and a ridge line down here, and this is just flat. So if TSM runs up this way to peek over, Uber is hidden on the top, but this is so exposed, and that would screw over them. So what HC does instead is cross immediately when he realizes that TSM is pushing forward. You see him running across, stops there, and then he just prones. Doesn't do anything. Prones down and waits. Just waiting for them to make that move forward. So he is like, Fuss and Uber can sit above on the hill and see them and give the info. And of course, HC can hear their footsteps and hear if they throw nades and all that stuff and provide more info and be that surprise factor player that in case they push, they won't be expecting him to already be up that close. So they decide to go around the side. 1 down, 2 down. Rory tries to sprint like, no, you will not catch me. Tries to run out into the blue, but Fuzzface finds him. I loved it. You could just tell once Gustav went down, so it was like, oh, my teammates are dead. I must deny the point. Starts sprinting, but he goes down as well, unfortunately. So that was sure. Let me just do this. Boink. That was game number 5. Oh, game number 4. Sorry, make that. 1 more game to go on the day. Game number 5. We'll zoom out a little bit. And then we'll see. Next game. This game was interesting too. Some very funky rotations coming in across the board. 0.44 seconds. That is very early. I'm not gonna look at the video right now. I'll do it after we're done with this. But in any case, plane pretty decent. Everyone can go pretty much. I think this is probably one of the most fair planes. Milta Power over Hospital. Pretty much everyone can go exactly where they want. Yes, ends they. I mean, even if they wanted to, nah, they probably wouldn't go consist vehicles here to go north. But they can still go north, George. So it's not really the biggest. It's not really the biggest deal. Everyone can go where they want. Decent setup for everyone, and this is again a situation where, if you look at it, 7. The plane went like this last game, and 7 went Nobo. Now the plane goes like this. Where they can easily, I mean, 7 could easily go down Novo, but now they go there. Which makes me think that it's very situational. And I think, have you ever seen, like, there's a YouTube video where the general is holding a speech, or like he's doing a speech or whatever, and he goes ahead and he says, you know what makes me happy or whatever. He says, I always start the day by making my bed. He says something like that, because then you have fulfilled your first task of the day, and then you're more mentally prepared to do more tasks. I don't know, something like that. And I think that can kind of be translated to 7's situation, because I don't think they know. Honestly, I don't know what makes them decide whether to go with the one place or the other. Because if you have 2 games, game 1, the plane is like that. Game 2, the plane is like that. Very similar planes when it comes down to it. And one game they go here, the next game they go there. What makes them decide when to go where? I'm not sure what the differences are between the 2 situations. And I think it's one of those things that if you don't even have that down yet, then then it catapults, like that becomes the little rock that then pushes another rock, then pushes another rock. Like it makes, the more you can kind of set in stone, and I'm not saying you have to do the exact same things every single game, because that's not gonna work either. But the more you can kind of set in stone for your team, the better off you are with most things. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where I would love to hear from them how they decide where they go in these type of planes where they could easily have gone towards military. But then there's also the whole thought that, oh, the circle has to go, like, touch some part of the plane path. So if it went down here, then there's a big chance that it's going to touch somewhere and it's going to go military. I don't know if that's actually true. I've never really seen any written proof to it or sound proof to it. I've just heard that thought as well. The circle has to touch, like somewhere in the circle, it has to touch the plane path. I don't know if it's actually true though. But in any case, circle goes north, N47, they will go loot up, and then this was a fun situation where Sanhok came running up, T-Bone realizes it, and then Eivel comes like an elephant, hello over there, and they scared away Sanhok. They could have been an early kill. You've never seen a game not touch the plane path. Okay. I mean, yeah. I will keep looking forward. We can look forward in the future. Maybe we could use the other program and then put up like some sort of algorithm that goes, has it ever happened, and then it could sort those games or source those games to the side. Maybe, I don't know. There's actually an easy way to test it. That's a very easy way to test it. Someone go make a custom game, make the first circle absurdly small, and see if it connects to the plane path. That would be the easiest way to test it, right? And see, like, make the first circle extremely small and then see if that circle is somewhere on the plane path. Because if it is like a pearl on a necklace, then obviously that's true. But I would think that you can still have these planes. No, it's not true, Hayes. I have seen southern planes with northern circles before. I'm thinking about it right now. Contenders, phase 2, Milta Power, over Prim, Severny Circle. I know for a fact that happened twice because me and James were both talking about it for like 3 days after that. Aha! Myth busted. It could be, okay, I'm not going to say anything about this patch because this was phase 2. It could have changed since then. That I don't know. But back then, show us, where's your proof? It could have changed since then. That I don't know. I know they constantly do all these small fiddling things in PUBG and the algorithms and all that stuff. You want to see it? I'll see if I can find it. I'm not gonna sit and watch through all the contenders games of phase 2 to find it, but I'm very certain that I saw a game like that. Very, very positive. But then again, I have been wrong before. But I just remember me and James talking about it. But in any case, let's see. 7. They're trying to rotate in from the west. Navi doing the same thing. And I believe 2 players from Navi get killed. Yeah, they do. Now the circle 2 pups. Right off the bat, you don't think too much of it. Because a turtle on a necklace? Did I say that? Didn't I say pearl? Turtle, pearl. I think I said pearl. Yasnaya in on the northern side. And obviously it won't be a priority go-to for anyone, but it's still one of those, if we can't go anywhere, at least there's Yasnaya. Kind of last resort type things, right? Whereas everyone will expect at this point that that all the compounds are taken. If not by a split team, then by a fully committed team. We can kind of see that it's true already. Most compounds are indeed taken at this point. And with so many, like, knowing that there's so many people around, it's very difficult to play this. Like, you don't want to commit 4 people to playing this. You would commit 2, and that's why I don't think we see anyone there. You would commit 2 and then have 2 in either spot surrounding it. So if you go to play this in the open, you need to have one angle that you're safe from. That's what we talked about before as well. If you're sitting behind a tree here, then you need to know that you have one angle. Like, doesn't matter where it is. You need to have one angle that you know is safe, because it doesn't, like, it's sitting here and then peek. We'll make a big rock here. A guy is sitting here and he's shooting this way. And of course someone is shooting back. Then you need to know that you can go over here and heal without getting shot in the back. And if you're up here in the open, you don't know to which angle you're safe from. So therefore, without control on either compound, it's rare that, I don't know why I marked this, but it's rare that you see just 4 people sitting here mid-game with all this contested. Also because you can see from down the mountainside, you can sometimes see over as well. And from up here you can see across. There's way too many angles to you're leaving yourself exposed to. New circle pops, we're going east. Again, compounds in, compound. Everything is compound and open. I mean, you cannot play... Yes, I know there's a dip down here. But you cannot play... I'm gonna mark this whole thing. Dip. 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 Rich. But those are kind of out anyway. So within this whole area, if you don't have one of these 3 compounds, which nobody will soon, because I think reciprocity pushes down, you have 3 dips to play. Out in the open, you're within 8 distance to your opponents, and it's again one of those shack positions where it's going to be very hard for you to leave from there if the circle shifts away from you. So not a whole lot to play from in the center of the circle if you're not there already. And the teams that are currently out will need to get very creative. And this is, I mean, I was very confused with this play by Knights. I would like to hear from, if there's any Knights players here, I would love to hear from them, their thoughts on it. Okay. I would love to hear from Knights people what the thought was on this one. But they decide to go over. I don't think they know that Desperados is spread this thinly, but they decide to go up here instead of trying to potentially, get something. I mean, I don't know. You wouldn't crash that, Can't wrap under. If going north, yeah. I actually don't know. I think this is a situation where Knights just get fucked by the circle, honestly. They just get fucked. Had it shifted further west, then they would have known that these teams would have to leave as well. But because everyone is included, except for Knights, then it's just kind of unfortunate. Everyone gets to play, except for Knights, they're out. So they have to rotate, they end up running into Desperados. Navi, again, we talked about it, you can go to that dip, but you're not going to be safe. Not going to be safe at all, because there's so many angles that can look towards you. And now we get down here, and this is where, oof, my lord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7.5, 8.5, 9.5 out of 16 teams aren't in. 9.5 of 16 teams aren't inside the circle. And where can they go? In terms of fighting, this area can probably hold one more team. One team can prone out here. One team can take a dip. One team can play there. So if we're very generous, we might have 4 or 5 spots for 9.5 teams. You can see what I'm saying, right? There's going to be people crashing compounds. There's going to be a lot of fighting in the open for very little space. I mean, you can only fit one team in on the northeastern side. You can play down here, but that's already taken. And we have 5 or 6 teams trying to make their way in that direction. So, very tricky situation where a lot of teams get shifted away from. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about, but I will let you have it. It seems like you're having a discussion, and I won't interfere with it. T-Bone gets killed. N47 has to wrap around. Not a lot of room for them to play on, unfortunately. G2, they have the compound on the edge with the new circle shoving, or showing itself. Shoving, where the circle shoved the people to the west. Crow Crowd, they'll go up on the top, have the high ground position, but it's one of those where, how the hell do you get down from there? And you know what I'd like to see? I don't know if Vard or anyone from NIP are here, but do you guys remember, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, when NIP had a game where Vard came into the chat and he went, I honestly don't know why we didn't cross the road. That was the game where G2 ended up being here and holding out Knights, and they won the game. Look what happens. They crossed immediately. This is a team that made a mistake, knew what the mistake was, and the next time they were in the same situation, someone went boink. Remember that last time when we did this, we made a mistake? Let's not do that again. And now they fixed it. It's small things, but that is what gets you the win in the long run. constantly fixing errors. In the next circle, TSM crashes FaZe. They had to know FaZe was there. Well, I mean, right now they're fighting Gamer Legion. We'll move one step at a time. Crow Crowd gets 2. Galaxy and ABS unfortunately can't get them down, so they have to push over. And I think this is a situation where we'll see Gamer Legion. One guy remaining, that's Fix on his own. Tries to run up from behind, he goes down. And you tell me that they crash. They do. Right? Send it straight in and they die. Let's zoom out. This is when they start moving. Where can they go that isn't there? They know that there are 4 people in the compound. They've just been shot at them while they were taking this fight down here. So they know this compound is taken. They're seeing people die up here. No way, but there's always the blue. I think maybe they hope that FaZe is focused up here and wounded or something so they can take the fight, but I honestly think it's one of those. You know what? I mean, as soon as they peek over the top or the ridge line, they just get instantly melted, and there's not a whole lot they can do. There's not a whole lot they can do. Ends on the northern side, try to make some plays. Not gonna happen. Circle. Who would have thought? FaZe getting a hard shift. That, my friends, is something we haven't seen in a long time. Oh wait, they did last game too. And it's not a BM against FaZe or anything. The circle has to go somewhere. It's just, it's very crazy to me how many times late game FaZe has had hard shifts that could have changed the game for them. Because FaZe is literally sitting on a ridge that's this big. Had the circle not included this, FaZe would probably have gone down in 5th place. Had they not, had this area not been inside the circle, look at how little place they have. This circle can go so many different places. Just not include that and FaZe would have been in all kinds of trouble. Boink. But they get to stay. And everyone else has to leave. And this play by GMT pretty much made their game. They have a ridge line here that they can run underneath. And as soon as they get control of that, like as soon as they know that this is clear, they can traverse through all of this. They have easy access or free access from here to there. So no matter where the next circle goes, they can try and make a play. GMT clears it, Samty comes over, James and EB stays behind to hold the hilltop, and now they can do the wrap on that side. Very, very, very good recognition and very smart move by EMT to make the initial cross on over. Reciprocity, they have 2 trees or something and a court behind a lot of smokes up there. FaZe is still on their little ridge line, can't do a whole lot. Liquid pushing over, they had the compound, but then they made the play out to get into a better position. Circle, dead center, I mean, they're just held off. There's nothing they can do really. So the end game is pretty straightforward. I mean, once GMT gets this spot and their teammates can cross, it's pretty much a freebie. What I like to see though is sometimes you would have seen all the teams fully commit to it, but while they're leaving, James and EB stays and holds the north. You can see James gets him down. It's just a small thing that some teams probably wouldn't have recognized. 1 second. But yeah, that was the end of the game. So I hope you thought it was interesting. If you guys want to stick around, then please do. We're gonna talk a little more, but if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching and see